Hi, so this question looks really tricky, right? Oh my goodness, we have this complicated shape. And I think the thing to keep in mind when we do a question like this is that we're finding the total volume of this thing, and we just have to break it down into two shapes. And once we do that, it's really not hard. What do we have here? Well, we have a rectangular prism that looks like this. And let me put some numbers on here. Let's say that this was 4 by 4 by 8 by 5. Call them all meters. Okay, well that leaves us with two shapes. It leaves us with this rectangular prism here, which is 4 by 4 by 8. And it leaves us with a square-based pyramid Ooh, that was some rough drawing there. I'm going to try again. Okay, that's the best I can do, which is not saying much. But it has a height of, what did we say, 5? And because it sits right on top of this, right on this square, this must also be 4 by 4. And we just have to deal with the two shapes one at a time. One at a time. So for a rectangular prism like this one, and I'm sure you can draw a nicer one than I have, the volume, if you remember, is just the area of the base, in this case a square, multiplied by how tall it is, in this case 8 meters. So we would say it's length times width, because that's the area of the square base, times the height, how tall it is. So 4 meters times 4 meters times 8 meters. And that gives us 128. And then the unit, well, meters times meters times meters, that gives us meters cubed. And that makes perfect sense because this is a three-dimensional unit. And it's a three-dimensional shape. We're getting the volume of it. So that 4 times 4 was the base. The height of this thing was 8 meters. And we put that all together at 128 cubic meters. Now we're not done the question because we also have this square-based pyramid here. But again, for these, we said it's a lot like the prism formula. You take the area of the base, which in this case is 4 times 4, and we multiply it by the height, in this case 5 meters. But because it's a shape that comes to a point, in this case a pyramid, its volume ends up being 1/3 of what it would have been if it had the same face on the top. So we say here the volume of this is going to be length times width times height, but it gets divided by 3. The length times width is the area of the base. The height is how high up it goes. And we divide it by 3 because that's what happens when you make one of these shapes come to a point, instead of being extruded up to the same shape at the top. And so we'd get 4 meters times 4 meters times 5 meters this time, divided by 3, and 4 times 4 is 16, times 5 is 80. Then we have to divide it by 3, and that gives us 26.666 repeating And since there's no decimals in the question, we're going to round the nearest cubic meter. We're going to say it's 27 meters cubed. Now we're still not done the question because we now know the volume of, so the base of the bottom of these two shapes, the rectangular prism, and the pyramid, the top of the two shapes. Now the total volume is just those two added together. Right? It's the volume of the rectangular prism plus the volume of the, of the pyramid. So in this case, the volume total is going to be 128 cubic meters plus 27 cubic meters. And that is 155 cubic meters. And that's the final answer. So a long question, but not a tricky one, not a tough one. You just have to take your time and work on one shape at a time, just like that.